Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special Wednesday edition of Wrestling with Wrestling. We just pushed it back a day. Hope that wasn't too disruptive for you. You get to hear two idiots talk about wrestling on Wednesday instead of Tuesday this week. Joining me, as always, the great Doc Gregory. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, as you know, and as it usually is, pushing the show back or just going at it alone is usually my fault. Unfortunately, I had to get with my mom. She had a dog that was really ill and had to be put down today. So it kind of took up some time, and I was just unable to do the show. So please forgive me, but it did take a big heart to step in the way and to not do my duties yesterday. So apologize.
Yeah, there are one or two things that might be more important than talking about wrestling on the internet. Perhaps familial obligation might be one of those things. So,
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into it. We're still in the middle of the build to the next big pay-per-view, which is Money in the Bank at the end of this month on the 29th. And this was, in terms of Money in the Bank, this was a fairly eventful episode of Raw that we had Monday night. We have a slightly better idea of what that show is going to look like now, although they still have a few weeks to build up the rest of the way. But it was an eventful episode of Raw. Whether it was like a good episode or a bad episode, I guess, is a matter of opinion, but it was a very eventful episode.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that happened on Raw was there was Triple H and Stephanie came out for the usual show opening promo, and the big announcement there was that now they have finally officially stripped Daniel Bryan of the title. He is no longer the WWE champion, and the new champion will be decided at the Money in the Bank show. And there will be a ladder match for the title. And I don't know if they clarified this or not. Is the ladder match at the show going to be the Money in the Bank ladder match, or are they going to have two ladder matches? Are they going to have one for the title and one for the Money in the Bank briefcase? I don't think they've really addressed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they would need to at this point. I mean, it would have been for the Money in the Bank, but who cares about that if you can give them the title match in almost a Money in the Bank format? So they might be able to get away with this year because it's special circumstances, like the road, like a battle royal or a tournament for WrestleMania every now and again. It might have a cherry on top of it.
That's a good point, and maybe it would make it so that next year when they go back to the regular old Money in the Bank rules, it'll make it seem a little more special because there hasn't been one for 2 years because they crowned the champion in last year. So, yeah, I guess that's probably the best way to go. But they haven't really. I know when Stephanie mentioned it last week, I think she specifically said it would be the Money in the Bank match that crowned the new champion. But this week, for some reason, I thought I heard her say there will be a ladder match at the Money in the Bank show, and the way she phrased it as sort of like leaving room for maybe there being another one. So I don't know.
And that might be a possibility. I mean, I don't see any need for doing it. I mean, you obviously only have one belt at this point,
Right.
So you don't need two different Money in the Bank matches. But I do see the point of maybe putting one on there at a later date, or maybe here next week, saying there will be one for the future contenders.
Right.
But who do you really draw from there? Because
Yeah.
I think unless you do another round robin where, say, the losers that didn't get into this title match, those losers will go into this Money in the Bank match, and you'll get chosen at a later date to be a contender.
Yeah, that's something. But it does kind of, I'm perfectly fine with just having one ladder match because I mean one of the problems with having two world titles the last like 7 or 8 years, and then with them doing the Money in the Bank as like a separate pay-per-view, they had a Money in the Bank match for both titles, so you have two like between 6 and 10 man ladder matches on one show. It just seems like it's too much. I was actually looking forward to there just being one Money in the Bank match this year. So I mean, if it does turn out the way it looks, where it's just going to be one ladder match and it's going to be for the title instead of for the briefcase, I'm totally cool with that.
And quite honestly, after what they did to Damian Sandow and his win of Money in the Bank last year,
God.
I'm pretty much done with the whole theory.
Yeah,
Oh
who
my
even
God.
wants it at this point? It,
Who wins the Money in the Bank match and does not win the title? When does that happen?
yeah, that was and not only that, but I mean, like we talked about last week when they had the qualification match between Alberto Del Rio and Dolph Ziggler. Uh, both those guys actually cashed it in and won the title,
Hmm.
and it still got in the long run it got them nowhere. I mean, it elevated Del Rio for a little bit, for a few months, and then now he's right back down to the mid card. I mean, you could sort of, it did kind of elevate Edge a little bit because once Edge got to that main event level, he was there. But RVD kind of went up and came back down. Punk got up there and stayed there, but I don't think it was the Money in the Bank that elevated him. I think it was his promo and his program with Cena, which was like 2 years after the last time he won the Money in the Bank. So I don't know. Anyway, so for this Money in the Bank match for this year for the title, at the start of the show they announced that two people are in it, and it's Alberto Del Rio, who qualified previously, and Randy Orton, who Triple H puts in just because he's Randy Orton. Which actually makes sense because he was the former champion and he didn't actually lose the fall at WrestleMania. So even though Orton hasn't mentioned like anything about that since, you would think he would at least be a little irritated. Yeah, he lost the title when even though he wasn't the one who lost the fall, and he hasn't gotten anywhere near the title since. Uh, you know.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that they put Randy Orton. I understand what they're doing and why they would do it. I mean, he's part of that authority, and he stuck by Triple H when Batista walked away, so he deserves something, Even though he didn't win the Royal Rumble, Batista really does that. But yeah, Randy Orton, what the hell? He's a good friend of mine. What the hell?
Yeah, right.
Top. Let's give you. You've only been on top for the last 10 years. Let's go ahead and give you another shot at getting on top.
Yeah, really. You've been on top for all that time. You've had one hot run that totally deflated once you turned babyface, and and hasn't really come back since. But yeah. So, and with the other thing about having Orton in the ladder match, and we will talk about this as we get further into this Raw show, is it does seem to guarantee that the next and the booking of the upcoming house shows kind of forecast this too, that the next month of the new version of the Shield versus Authority program is not going to culminate in a 6-man match, because Orton would be one of the 3 people you would imagine, and he's in the Money in the Bank match. And I don't know what they're doing with Cena. I don't know if they're just going to keep Cena in with the Wyatts for another month or what, but. So anyway, so the two qualifiers at the beginning of the show are Alberto and Randy, and then Triple H also books a 6-man match for the main event of Raw, which would be the 2 remaining members of the Shield, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, versus all 3 members of the Wyatts. And Triple H says if you can find a partner, it'll be a 6-man. If not, it'll be a 3-on-2 match. So they found a partner.
Oh, I knew that would happen.
Yeah, I think you actually posted on the Facebook group.
Oh yeah, right after
the
show
was on. Yeah.
I was like, who's got their money on it?
Yeah.
They've been teaming up on house shows, recently. So I knew that Cena at least has been involved with a few angles with the Shield, and they've been on friendly terms. So it's like I kind of felt that that's what was going to come out of that, especially also with it being the Wyatt family.
Right, and it's sort of like common enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You can explain it that way. Like, well, what about all those times that the Shield beat the shit out of John Cena? Yeah, but they both have problems with the Wyatt, so that's really all you need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's get the next match on the show. The first match on the show, actually, after that promo, is a ladder match qualifier for Money in the Bank, and it's the 2 mid-card champions. Sheamus, the U.S. champion, versus Bad News Barrett, the Intercontinental champion. Barrett's bad news in his promo as he comes down to the ring is that once he climbs the ladder and becomes the champion, he's never coming back down, which would be nice, but I don't know if that's the truth. To me, the real bad news is that he's the Intercontinental champion, and he's actually been on kind of a hot streak lately, and yet he's wrestling the U.S. champion on a completely unpromoted match on free TV.
Yeah.
as a qualifier to get into another match. Like, their match really doesn't mean anything at all.
It's unprecedented. We did not advertise that the U.S. champion is going to be fighting the Intercontinental champion because that is a match all on its own right there to promote. But not only that, but the uniqueness that the winner goes on for a chance to get the WWE title. But you have to beat, how many guys are going to be in that thing? Like 4 or 6? I guess 6 guys?
6, I would guess, yeah. Sometimes they do 7, but yeah.
Did the other 2 get into it on SmackDown? Because I really didn't pay attention to SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't even pay attention to SmackDown.
Yeah.
I haven't even read results or anything about it. But yeah, so Sheamus and Barrett have this match to qualify for the ladder match at Money in the Bank, and there was a nice spot in this match that I noted toward the end where Sheamus was going to do his slingshot diving shoulder block over the top rope from the outside, and Barrett cut him off with a headbutt, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But it didn't really matter because Sheamus ended up winning. He hit the brogue kick and pinned Bad News Barrett clean. And so my note on this match was, so the hot over Intercontinental Champion loses clean as a whistle in a tournament qualifier. Good thing neither titles nor wins and losses mean anything.
Yeah. But truth be told, I'd rather see Sheamus go to have that opportunity in the Money in the Bank than Barrett, because that means there's a strong possibility that Barrett will have his own match all by himself. I would
hope so.
So he'll be showcased even more. You don't have to actually be outshined by other superstars. So in the long run, he gets to strengthen his title while Sheamus puts his on the back burner. Well, what I like to call it, he likes to put it on the Dean Ambrose burner, and he's not going to defend it this pay-per-view. So hopefully Barrett will. But I don't know yet.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, that's a good point about the ladder match. I mean, it's pushed as a really prestigious thing, but a lot of times it does kind of seem like they're just sort of putting guys in there to keep them out of the way. You know, like think of all the times that like Kofi Kingston has been in a Money in the Bank match. You know, there's no fucking chance in hell that poor Kofi is ever going to win that briefcase or have a serious shot at the title, but he's in there. You know, he gets his spot, and then that's pretty much it.
Well, you know, you got to have that exciting factor. Kofi is like the Black Jeff Hardy in the WWE right now.
Yeah,
he gives you those like moments that you like to see, but not really a serious push. When push comes to shove, you get shoved down.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That's exactly what happens to Kofi, and to a lot of people too, not just Kofi, but a lot of people on the undercard there. Next was a really good promo from the Wyatt family. I like that they're letting Luke Harper talk some more because he's really good. And they started out with Luke talking, and then Bray kind of came in from the side and took over. But I thought it was really effective. And the promo itself was just the usual Wyatt family stuff. And Bray saying that they're gonna overwhelm the Shield tonight, and there's a cool moment in this one where Bray says, the Shield likes to talk about how they were the most dominant force in WWE, but that's not how I remember it. And he does like a little wink at the camera. I thought that was pretty cool. But a good promo from the Wyatts, I thought.
I was laying there, breathing fire. They told me this would happen to me. I remember what she told me. It's just Abigail. And by the way, I saw your video the other night, the meeting of the minds, when Toby made his his that was some priceless stuff, man. That was great.
You know what? I mean, that was fun, but it's like I don't feel like I'm really that great at improvising with the animals. And like the host, Christopher Mowdy, he said before we started, "Hey, can you get Toby Benson? Can he do some stuff?" And I was like, "Sure," because you always say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But after it was over, I was like, "Man, Toby could have been funnier." I don't know, but I'm glad you liked it.
No.
I like that he responded to Cy Ten Bruggen Kate. He was like, "Where's my evidence, baby?" Okay, so the next couple of segments were skipped for Hulu, so I didn't get to see them. I didn't get to see Lana's pro-Putin promo or Rusev squash Zack Ryder. Not that I really care about that, but I also didn't get to see Ryback versus Goldust and R-Truth, where Axel pinned Goldust. So I guess Goldust is actually going to lose some of these matches.
I don't know. Is it going to be like the lost puppy syndrome here? Because they both sit there and they do the close-ups of Cody and the close-ups of you see the disappointment in Cody. They I guess that he failed Goldust, and then you see Goldust sitting in the ring, and he's just like, oh man, oh I wish I had my brother. If I only had my brother, I'd be successful. You could
Yeah.
It's just so sad, and you see it on his face, and I don't know. To me, I don't like this angle at all. Um,
No, me
and,
neither.
and honestly, when I saw R-Truth come out, I thought as of from last week when he teamed up with Sin Cara, that maybe that's the route they were going. That you see a little bit of success with him being teamed up with other people, and Cody get like a complex about it.
Yeah.
But I did have
That's how they should be going.
It should be. I did have my doubts when R-Truth come out, though.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know. R-Truth doesn't win these types of matches.
Yeah, that's to me that's how I would book it. I mean, maybe they're still heading that direction. Maybe like the next partner is going to be that one.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like to me, because otherwise I don't see where it goes. Like either either Goldust and Cody finally like officially break up and start feuding with each other, which you could have done just right away and just gotten to the point, or Cody kind of like finds his balls and they come back and they team up together again, which again gets you nowhere because that's right back where you started. Like it just doesn't go anywhere. But if they do, if they would at least Goldust and whoever, wow, they're a pretty good team, then maybe that can cause Cody's heel turn or something.
Well, they could be playing out the whole theory, and we haven't seen this in a long, long time, and we don't get to see this too often. That they wanna show you first that they are testing people, and some will be good, and some will be bad, and he might go more on a losing streak, but then he comes across that certain someone, and then they start getting successful. But
Right.
that story behind why they came together is already established now. That he was searching for a partner, he found him. You have that little backstory that was already built. So, and now you have your storyline predetermined, and Cody's ready to go.
Right. Yeah, I would like to see something like that. I do hope. I mean, I know sometimes I forget that sometimes they actually do have their shit together, and they aren't just throwing shit out week to week. They do have a long-term plan. Hopefully, that's the case with Goldust and Cody. But yeah, as of right now, I'm with you. I don't really see how it's helping either guy. It makes Cody look like a wimp because he says he's not good enough when he's a former champion, and is clearly an awesome wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes Goldust look kind of like a chump too because he's like, "Oh, sure, you go ahead, pick my partners for me." It just doesn't.
Yeah, you have no authority. You have no authority over me.
Yeah, it's like you know what? Maybe I don't want to be in a tag team anymore. How about that? Maybe if you're not going to be my brother and tag up with me, then I'll just fucking retire or go back to wrestling as a singles. I don't know. Anyway, now speaking of, they cut that out on Hulu, so I didn't actually get to see that match. However, they left in the backstage angle where Summer Rae pours milk over Layla at the makeup table. And I thought
retarded.
Yeah, it's. I mean, well, see, on one hand, I thought, well, at least it's a program for the divas,
Mm-hmm.
but on the other hand, it's like it's two women fighting over a man, and they're doing like just stereotypical like girl stuff, like messing up each other's makeup or pulling each other's hair. It's like, okay, I'm glad that you're giving them something to do, but I mean, Jesus, what is this? Is this the 50s?
Well, it would be like men wrestlers, right? Okay, when you get into that squared circle, you're gonna throw it out there and you're gonna beat the hell out of one another. So you run into each other backstage. So instead, I'm not gonna beat the hell out of you. I'm gonna throw a pie in your face.
Right.
It doesn't look right if the guy wrestler did that. And the women wrestlers shouldn't be doing that kind of shit either. You're in the squared circle, you beat the hell out of each other. You shouldn't be like throwing food all over each other and making a mess and all that crap backstage either, because you're fighters.
Yeah, exactly. They're wrestlers. They're wrestlers. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think the reason why they left that in on the Hulu cut is because they also left in the tag team match with Fandango and Damien, but we'll get to that in a second because I have some shit to say about that too. But anyway, in between that is the Shield comes out, the remaining members of the Shield, and first 3MB are in the ring, I guess just to start shit, because they're that stupid, because the Shield has kicked every ass that's been put in front of them for like 2 years. So of course 3MB comes out to fuck with them. Um, and which is fine. I mean, I don't mind having the Shield given Ambrose and Reigns somebody to beat up to make them look good. I like the fact that they're keeping them strong. And that's what happens. 3MB calls out Ambrose and Reigns, and they walk in through the crowd, and they have a brawl in the ring, and it spills outside. Ambrose and Reigns basically beat their asses, and there's a really cool spot at the end where Heath Slater is trying to back up and get away, and he gets almost to the top of the ramp, and then Roman Reigns runs around from the side and spears him. And the way they shot it, you didn't even see that Roman Reigns was there. He ran all the way up without being caught by the camera and just dove on him out of nowhere. That was really cool. And then Ambrose cuts what I thought was an awesome promo.
Yeah, it was.
A really awesome promo, where he doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't yell, he doesn't go into any kind of a catchphrase. He just tells Seth Rollins basically that he's going to rearrange his face, and tells him how. He's going to rip his ear off, he's going to move his nose around to the side of his face, and he gets so like intense by the end of it that he fucking throws the mic down and has to actually pick it up to give it back to Roman so Roman Reigns can do his bit. And Reigns' bit was okay too, but man, that promo from Dean Ambrose was awesome, I thought.
I think the smile between the two were a bit breaking kayfabe, though.
Yeah, I thought so too.
We should make a spoof show instead of Breaking Bad called Breaking Kayfabe.
Yes. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, I thought so too. I thought because he was just so into it that he dropped the mic and he forgot that Reigns had to do his bit, and he kind of was like, "Oh, hey, here you go, buddy. Sorry." But yeah, that was a great promo from Ambrose. He's such a good talker, and I mean, I know everybody says that Roman Reigns is going to be the guy in the future from the three guys in the Shield, and I'm sure that's going to be the case because he's got the look and he's not bad at talking. But I mean, Ambrose is just incredible to me. He's really impressing me. I mean, he's such a good talker. He's good in the ring. He's very unique the way he moves, the way his style is. He's got such a great, distinctive personality. He's going to be a star too, I think. I hope so.
Yeah, I think between what Ambrose did, which was a very good performance on his behalf, and the mic drop, I don't know if it threw Roman off. He's usually better on that. He took the mic and he seemed to like he was a little bit off, and he's like, "You're the scum of the earth." I was like, "Is that what you just really?
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?" I'm like, honestly.
Yeah,
it didn't come off the right way. It's like it felt like he was a little bit lost there.
Yeah, I agree. Because he started to, he said at first he said, Seth Rollins, you committed the unforgivable sin, and then he kind of stammered, and then he said the scum of the earth thing. Like he just kind of got lost, and he just said that to give himself a chance to remember what he was going to say. Yeah. And then the main angle development out of it was that they promised. That when Seth Rollins comes out later to have an interview with Michael Cole, that after he's done talking, they're going to come out and beat the shit out of him. So that was the promise made in the promo. Okay, so let's talk about this. Whatever they're doing with Damien Sandow. There was a tag team match. The Usos, who are the tag team champions, versus the team of Fandango, who came out with Layla, who still had milk over her, because I guess she didn't have time during that Shield promo to fucking rinse her hair off or anything. She comes out with milk all over and kind of screws up her dance with Fandango because he can't really stand to be close to her because of the milk. And then out comes this fucking Damien Sandow in like a peach-colored ballet unitard with like a rhythmic gymnastics ribbon thing, and he dances and prances down to the ring and works the whole match like that. Like is doing like dancing and half-assed like ballet moves the whole time. And actually, the best part of this to me was when JBL mentioned Ricky Starr, who is this fucking great. If you've never heard, any of you guys watching, if you don't know who Ricky Starr is, we should do him for a fucking legend one week, because he was a star in the 50s and 60s. He's fucking old school. And Ricky Starr wrestled sort of like Damien Sandow did in this match, only a little better at it because it was like his full-time style. And he was really flexible, and he would do like dance moves and kind of jump around on his toes. But he was a babyface. he wasn't doing like trying to be like a gay heel. Like he would wrestle like these tough roughneck heels in like the sort of stereotypical twinkle toes dancer style, but he was a babyface, and he got over with the crowds in the 50s and 60s as a babyface doing this. It was really incredible. Some of his matches are on YouTube, and it's really fun to watch this guy doing, like, you would think that he would be booed out of the building because people would think he was acting gay and the homophobia thing, but man, he got over crazy big as a babyface doing this, and he was great. And that's what Sandow did, you know, in this match. But when Sandow did it, it's supposed to be a joke, and it's not supposed to look cool and impressive. It's supposed to look like Sandow's an idiot. Mm-hmm. And you know, the announcers even put it over that way, that Sandow's an idiot, he's a clown, what's he doing, you know, what's he trying to, what's he thinking of? And so my question my question to you, Doc, my question just to the air is, what the fuck did Damien Sandow do? And who did he do it to deserve this? I mean, he's such a talented guy. And even if you say, well, they're just putting him in like a mid-card comedy thing, I mean, okay, I think he's worth more, but you don't have to do it in like this. He looks like an idiot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, WWE has really done nothing to further or even just further his career, or just keeping mid-card status, or even giving him like a Kofi Kingston type career. You know, don't win the big ones, but we'll give you enough. We'll throw you enough in there. Yeah. But on top of that, on top of him losing time and time again, he's been coming out recently with ridiculous outfits. Now, usually when wrestlers can do this and perform the right way, Big Show and all of them do the goofy outfits from time to time. I mean, I guess it could be funny and get over his baby face, but you have to push it that way. I don't know what in the hell they were thinking. I did see that he had an Audi in that tight little outfit he was wearing.
Yes.
I mean, it's like everything, every muscle was showing, down to the bottom. You had, pink, you know. Turkey's done, Sandow. I think you're done too, buddy. I don't know when your contract expires, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to be some of the sliced meat when that happens. I would, and even if they didn't cut you, why the hell would you want to work there, dude, anymore?
Yeah, I mean, unless he's just holding on because he thinks, well, maybe if I show them that I'm willing to do this, they'll realize I'm a loyal company man and they'll reward me. But that's a losing game. I mean, they might do that, but then again, they might also say, well, look, Sandow will do whatever the fuck we tell him to. Let's do some more stupid shit with him.
Yeah, it's hard to say what he's done, because he might have said some shit backstage that he's paying for, because we've all heard the stories of what DX pulled off, and Triple H is the one that had to pay for that one.
Right.
You know, when they did the whole Madison Square Garden breaking kayfabe with Kevin Nash and them, you know, Nash and Hall were gone, and Michaels was the champion, so who's going to pay for what they just did in front of a live audience? It was Triple H. That's why he was knocked down the rung, and he talks about it openly in his DVD of what happened to him. So, I mean, I don't know. It is a very strong possibility that Damien might have dipped his finger in the wrong pudding. I don't
know. You know, or maybe like he just forgot to say hi to somebody.
Mm.
You know, and they're like, no respect. Back down to the bottom of the card, Sandow. Hope you like being a ballerina.
But this doesn't make the tag team champions look strong either. I mean, you want them to go against strong teams, not a fucking joke. You know, you need to represent those belts. And I mean, why would that team be worthy of wrestling the tag team champions? Honestly,
if you had put them out there against Los Matadores or something. Mm-hmm. It would have made a lot more sense. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, because they're hot right now.
Yeah, they're hot, but they're a comedy team and they're lower card, and you know, it would have made sense. And let if for whatever reason you really want to make Damien Sandow look like an idiot because he fucked somebody's wife or whatever, fine, have him go out and have him get squashed by Los Matadores. That way, you get a comedy match out of it. The Matadors look good, and you get them in there with someone other than the guys in 3MB. You know. And everybody except Damien Sandow wins. But, you know, yeah, the Usos like shouldn't even be in the same ring. Mm-mm. But just a thrown together team like that, unless you're just going to go ahead and say, you know what, they're just fucking jobbers and just treat them like enhancement talent. You know,
I don't
which
know
would be
why. I
unfortunate.
don't know why our truth hasn't found Fandango yet.
Yeah, right.
So that'd be an interesting little story to tell. But no, it was horrible. But speaking of
Yeah,
this, I
it
mean,
was terrible.
going back to one of the things cut from Hulu, which was
Yeah,
Zach Ryder's poor crush by Rusev. I discussed about Lana coming out there because obviously her promotion. Her promos, she's has finally, I guess, they got into a comfortable level where they want to mention Obama and drag his name through the mud, make him look bad, and I understand where they're coming from with that, but I had posed the question, like, do you think that they're going a little too far with this? I mean, I wasn't sure. I felt a little bit uncomfortable with it at one point. I do recognize great heat. I'm like, oh, this is priceless, and I get it that it's an act, but I just wonder, you got your Zeb Coulters, Don't Tread on Me. You got a whole motion over here with them. It seems like WWE has this kind of whole you got the revolutional Wyatt family. They're kind of going the government anti-country route with
yeah,
with a lot of these characters.
yeah. They're all heels.
Mm-hmm.
But that idea, like that whole, whatever your personal politics are, whether you think that Obama is a good president or not, or whether you think the government is okay or you think the government is terrible, like that whole idea of like, being a revolutionary and fighting against the system, and like that to me is like a babyface gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that with Zeb they try to make him out to be like, he's xenophobic and he's racist and he's paranoid about people sneaking over the border. I understand that, but it's just like that you have to be aware of who your audience is, and I know that Vince would like to think maybe sometimes that he's not playing his show to wrestling fans, and his audience is more sophisticated than that, but I don't think they are. I mean, he's the only national wrestling show that there is that of any significance, unless you want to watch TNA. So most of the people watching his show are wrestling fans, and wrestling fans, a lot of them live in the South. A lot of them don't like Barack Obama. A lot of them don't like people from Mexico. A lot of them don't like,
You coming to take their guns?
Yeah. So, if you have someone like who's supposed to be a heel, but they're coming out and saying shit that people agree with and that they want to cheer for, they're going to get babyface reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with Lana and Rusev, it's like they set him up as like a foreign menace, like he's coming from Russia to destroy us Americans. He thinks he's better than us. And then she talks shit about the American president,
Mm-hmm.
but does it in a way that might get people to cheer for her. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it goes too far in terms of like taste or anything. I just wonder if it'll just confuse people. Like Obama, I mean, I'm an Obama voter, but I understand a lot of people don't like Barack Obama. And if I were a wrestling promoter, and I wanted to get somebody over as a heel, I just wouldn't mention Obama at all. Like I wouldn't mention Obama. I wouldn't mention the president at all unless I was 99% sure of what the reaction was going to be. Like if I knew that everybody fucking hated him, I might say, okay, let's use him to get some babyface heat. Let's have the good guy come out and drop some kind of a joke about Obama to get the people behind him. If I knew that he was like hugely popular and everybody loved him, then I might have the heel come out and talk some shit about him to get some heel heat. But other than that, I just wouldn't mention him at all because it just confuses the crowd.
I've always wondered how interesting it would be, or how controversial it would be, if, like, say you and I were a group that entered a wrestling organization, and our key goal was we're atheists.
Yeah.
And we're coming to attack your religion. That's why we're here. I mean, imagine taking that into West Virginia where I wrestle.
That
gimmick
would be awesome.
You could get shot. We would get shot on our debut night. We would get shot.
Oh my God. We'd be getting Freebirds in Texas heat.
I did a Scientology gimmick there for a few shows that drew up some heat, and I found that a lot of fun.
I mean, I don't under, you know, a lot of people, a lot of promoters, I mean, you maybe know this better than I do because you actually work in the business, but I know a lot of promoters have reputations for trying to like sort of avoid that kind of heat nowadays because I guess they don't want to rile the fans up too much. But I mean, to me, like if you know that there's something that people in the crowd are just going to fucking hate, I mean, why not at least try it?
Hmm.
Get somebody over as a heel. Get somebody to, like, you know, our mutual friend Dan Harris told me a story once about how when he was wrestling, he came to a promoter and pitched a gimmick where he would be a heel, and what he would do is, and it's total like old school fucking wrestling shit. I mean, a lot of people would find this familiar. Cheap heat, but it would have worked. He would hand out balloons to kids at ringside,
Hmm.
and then pop the balloon.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and his promoter said, "Oh, I don't think you should do that. People wouldn't like that." That's the point.
Hmm.
You want people to hate him so that when the good guy comes out, they want to see him get this shit kicked out of him. That's what a heel is there for. Like, I just don't understand. You want people to hate him, don't you?
Yeah, there's a certain wrestler I work with, and I'm not going to mention about name, but I know for a fact that he brings signs with him and hands them to people he knows that are, knows him in the crowd. So and he's like, I want you to hold this sign when I come out. And sure enough, he walks up to him, gives them a lot of crap, steals their sign, and rips it up right in front of him. But
Yeah.
it is great heat, and that person's in on it.
Right. Right. But everybody else thinks that person's being bullied, and they're like, "Fuck that guy."
Hmm.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that would be a dream. It would be so easy. It's like, well, that's one of the reasons I've heard Ric Flair say it a bunch of times. He said one of the reasons why he loved wrestling Ricky Steamboat so much was because it was just so damn easy to get heat with him.
Hmm.
Because he was such a baby face and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
All you had to do if you were the heel was just like pull his hair, and then people wanted to kill you. Like, it was so easy.
I sit here for 45 minutes and just pretend I'm putting my thumb up in your throat.
Yeah.
This is great. This is so easy.
This is the easiest fucking match I've ever had. They hate me. Look at this shit. Anyway, let's get back to the show here. Speaking of skipped for Hulu shit, and you know, you mentioned this a couple weeks ago. It seems like when I watch it on Hulu and then I go back and look at what they've cut out, they cut out a lot of the stuff with the new guys because they cut out the Rusev match, and then they also cut out my boy Bo Dallas. I didn't get to see Bo Dallas beat Xavier Woods.
Again.
That makes no sense at all.
Yeah, that is weird. They cut him again.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row.
I don't know what it is. Maybe they think that their Hulu show is more refined. I mean, it's obviously it's highly edited. So I guess I don't know. I don't watch the Hulu version because I'd rather watch Raw. I'd rather see the mistakes if you're going to have them. But yeah, I think it was a strong match for Bo. I think that you should be highlighting him on Hulu as well because there's some people like yourself. You're not watching them. You're not watching Raw, so you're getting pretty much cut away from someone who you used to love watching on NXT. Obviously, he's been written into a storyline where he can't go in NXT anymore, so he's off that show. So why can't at least you have him on your Hulu version? And yeah, wasn't really fair. I mean, he did beat up Xavier Woods, and Xavier Woods' career right now seems to be on the low card. But strong match, you should be getting that. I do agree with you. You should be getting the new people on your Hulu version. I just went into a rant about that, and I apologize.
No, it's good. I agree with you. Well, and you know what's interesting about that Hulu version is, and maybe it's just because the turnaround is so fast, because they have to have it up the next day, and maybe they don't have time to do like really fine edits to it. But they don't usually cut out like botched spots, or like if somebody flubs something in an interview, like, you know, and where you feel like it's an easy fix, like they could just clip out that little bit, and the guy wouldn't look like such a fuck up. They don't do that. They usually just cut out entire segments. But like maybe that's just a function of they just don't have that kind of time to do like a really fine, close edit of it. So yeah, they skipped Xavier versus Bo. Next was another qualifying match for Money in the Bank. It was Cesaro versus Rob Van Dam. But before that, Paul Heyman came out because Raw was in Minneapolis this week, which is the home state of Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Heyman came out and got in his weekly reminder that Brock beat Taker at WrestleMania. And then he teased the crowd like Brock was there, and he was going to come out and have like a victory party for WrestleMania. And the crowd was all like kind of excited, even though I think everybody sort of knows intellectually that Brock wasn't really there. And then, of course, Cesaro comes out, and Heyman says the victory party is actually for Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Which was cool.
Yeah, well, Paul Heyman's a liar. He admits it. He's a liar.
He's a fucking liar. Well, let me ask you, Doc, because you might have an opinion on this too. I mean, I thought it was funny, and I thought it was like it really makes Heyman look like an asshole. But I think it might have actually kind of killed the match because the crowd was like excited about Lesnar coming out, and then once, even though I think they really liked Cesaro, once they saw that it was Cesaro instead of Lesnar, I didn't. There were spots in this match where the crowd seemed kind of dead.
You see, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do with Cesaro. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good move to move him with Heyman, but then Heyman's still pulling off the heel thing, and I don't know if that's what you're trying to do is make Cesaro a really strong heel. The crowd wants to like him, and it's like you're trying to fight that resistance. You're trying to fight them and turn it around the other way. You're trying to reprogram for them to think another way by making Cesaro a heel because he's running with the heels. Hey, I'm muted. Are you muted? You're muted.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm muted.
Oh, yeah, for a second.
There's a truck outside the window that's really loud, so I'm just muting it while I'm outside. So
That's cool.
Background noise everywhere.
Yeah, that's cool. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was a pretty good move. That's what Paul Heyman does. He's a good liar, and he wants to bring you to the edge of your seats. That's what Paul Heyman does. Everybody remembers ECW. He wants to put you right on the edge of your seat and then take it right away from you because that is the best heat you can get, is to promise someone, or to get them hope. It's to give someone hope and take it away from them.
Right. Yeah, and that is, I mean, it is great. It is great heel stuff, and I mean, Heyman is one of the best heels ever. And he knows exactly. And Heyman is a guy. What I think sets him apart from a lot of other heels, especially in the WWE, is that Heyman knows how to get people to hate him, and he's willing to be hated. Like he doesn't want to be like a cool heel that people kind of like. Yeah, he's an asshole, but I kind of like him. You know, like a Kevin Nash type of heel. He wants people to hate him, and that's awesome because lots of guys don't seem interested in that. They want to be like, yeah, I'm the heel, but I'm still kind of cool, right? You know? But Heyman's like a fucking liar and just, you know, is constantly rubbing shit in people's faces about The Undertaker and Brock. I mean, he's such a great old school just dick heel that you just fucking can't, you hate him.
He's the kind of guy that rubs his dog's face in the puddle of pee. He's like, you peed there. You peed there. You won't pee there again. Or
Brock Lesnar will F5 you.
That's right.
Okay.
Cesaro will give you the swing.
Yeah, because he is the king of swing. Oh, I
locked on a poodle swinging around.
Speaking of the king of swing thing with Cesaro, I really like that T-shirt he's got. That's like it looks like the old King of the Ring logo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what his jacket says too. I think that's really cool.
Retros.
Very retro, yeah. So Cesaro wins. Cesaro beats RVD, and looks really dominant doing it too because he gave him that look before he hit him with the neutralizer. Like he picked him up and kind of looked at him, and he was like, "I'm gonna beat your ass now," you know. And then he beat him. I like that. It made him look like a total badass.
Cesaro is definitely looking strong.
Yeah.
And I noticed that on I guess a poster came out revealing the new WWE 2K15 game that's coming out. And Cesaro is actually one of the wrestlers. Bray Wyatt's another one, I think. Hulk Hogan and John Cena, they were the 4 wrestlers on the poster. And
that's great.
Cesaro looked like a monster. I mean, I guess they polished him up nice, like he just walked off a set of fucking 300. He looked good in that photo.
Well, you know what? He's got it. He does look good, and he's great in the ring and as a personality. And if he is not like a tippy top worker in the company, I would imagine probably as a heel, but as a babyface he could work too. If he is not like a fucking top level guy by this time next year, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I don't know what they're waiting on, because I mean he's ready right now. Like they should start moving him up toward that tippy top position, main event level, like immediately. And if they want to take their time doing it, that's fine. Don't have him win the world title tomorrow, but so it means something. But man, that's one of your fucking future guys.
I predict he'll be in the main event at WrestleMania next year.
Oh man, I hope you're right.
I will make that prediction. I'll put a full dollar on it.
A full dollar.
Any takers?
Anybody in the comment section want to take up Doc for $1? I'm not betting because I hope you're right.
And I'll only pay $1. If more than one person bets me, you have to split that shit up.
You'll just lay $1 on the table and say, "Look, you guys work it out. I don't care. That's all you get."
I'll be writing checks for like a quarter of a penny.
Yeah. Here you go. Shit, I didn't know this many people watched. You all took up the bet, huh? Okay, here you go. So yeah, next is the sit-down interview with Seth Rollins in the ring, where Rollins comes out. He's dressed in a suit. He looks like Regis used to look when he hosted Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He's got like the dark suit with the dark tie, and he looks sharp. He looks sharp.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Did he look sharp?
Was he sharp looking or what?
We'll tell you right after this.
I'm going to tell you why I turned on the Shield.
Good interview by Seth, though. It was much better than the SmackDown excuse, and I just blamed it on the fact that it happened Monday. They taped it on Tuesday, and they hadn't written anything for him yet, because it just didn't come off very well that he wasn't going to tell you guys because you didn't deserve to know. But then a week later, sure, now you deserve to know.
Because at first, even he didn't know.
Right.
He was like, "Why the fuck did I do that? Why did I join Triple H's side when we've been kicking his ass for the last 2 months?"
Good question. This seems like something we just pulled off randomly.
Yeah, I know, weird, isn't it? I mean, I'll give him credit. He made it sound good, and it was a good promo in terms of his delivery and everything. He really made it sound good. But when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, because his whole justification was that he's adapting. Triple H said you have to adapt or perish. Well, this is the evolution of Seth Rollins. I'm just adapting. But, I mean, you were winning. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you adapting to? You would think, like, when things in nature evolve and they take on a new trait that becomes a part of their species, it's because that trait gives them an advantage. Mm-hmm. But the Shield already had the advantage. There's no advantage to joining Triple H. He just got the shit kicked out of him 2 months in a row. But I don't know. But like I said, they made it sound good, and it was something that apparently they just came up with at the last minute, and they're trying to make it as sensible and as smooth as they possibly can. And I think they did that. Seth pulled it off, I think, as well as he could have. And anyway, and this is where we find out who their tag team partner is for the main event, because Ambrose and Reigns come out to make good on their promise to beat the shit out of Seth Rollins as soon as he's done with his interview. And they kind of get their hands on him a little, but he gets away. They don't get too much contact. And then the Wyatts run in, and it's 3-on-2 for a second, and then out comes fucking John Cena. And he makes the save, and it's 3-on-3 with Ambrose and Reigns and Cena versus the Wyatts. So that becomes officially the main event. And like you said, they've been working together on the house show circuit anyway, so it's not like a huge shock. And it does kind of make sense in terms of story terms, and it makes sense for Cena too, because if he wants to still be, they want to keep Cena in a top position because he's their top guy and he's their top merchandise seller and he's like the ambassador of the company. So, and man, the Shield now, Ambrose and Reigns, they have been really hot as baby faces since they turned. I mean, I was thinking actually when Ambrose and Reigns were cutting their promo earlier in the show, I was thinking, man, these guys are the top baby faces in the company.
And I think that Dean is going to be the diamond in the rough of that group, and I don't think everybody I think that's going to take the steam out of what the Authority think of Roman Reigns once Dean kind of goes on his own.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was incredible.
I agree with you.
thinking something, but keep on rolling.
No, I was gonna say I completely agree with you with Dean. I mean, I'm sure I'm hoping for the best for Roman too because he's a young guy and he looks good and he's the kind of guy that I know that they like. But yeah, to me the star has always been Dean Ambrose. I mean, they first walked in, I thought it was going to be Dean.
Now I remember. See, I went off track.
Go for it.
Here's the thing that gets me about wrestling. It's like John Cena ran in there. He made the save during that. I mean, the lights went out and the Wyatt family show up. Okay, that's kind of like a ritualistic thing, like almost like how the Undertaker and Kane do their thing. But when John Cena comes out to make the save, I'm pretty sure his music played.
Yeah, you're right.
And I don't understand how that shit happens. It's like, obviously you're coming out to make the save wherever you were standing and you recognize that you took off at a run because you're charging down the ramp. So you must have, like, the guy sitting at I forget what the position they call it, the gorilla
Position, yeah.
Yeah, the gorilla position. The guy sitting at the gorilla position. What do you do as you're running by? You're like, play my music.
Yeah, I can find it in the next 2 seconds.
Yeah,
play it.
You having that music already preloaded tells me that this story was already predetermined.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Like I'm always sort of bitching about, like the way they have all these indirect ways of reminding you that it's a work. Mm-hmm. What you're seeing is predetermined, that it's not real. And I wish they would just stop all of that shit. And plus, I remember back in the day when a babyface would do a run-in to make a save, and they didn't play the music. I always kind of thought, maybe I'm just remembering it differently because I'm just biased and I'm remembering things the way they used to be or the way I thought they used to be. But I thought the pops were bigger. Mm-hmm. Like because when the crowd sees, like when Hulk Hogan would run out and make
he saved the Macho Man.
Yeah, and when Hogan would come running out, they didn't play Real American as he came out. He just came fucking barreling down the aisle. And when people noticed him and saw him, they fucking went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
oh my God, look who's coming, and that shit spreads like the wave in the crowd.
Yeah, it's so much better that way. I mean, not just because it's more realistic, but it's more exciting. Mm-hmm. Like, holy shit, is that Hogan? Here he comes, or is that Sting, or is that whoever? Austin? I mean, whoever. It's just, I don't know why they do that. I mean, I guess they think it makes better TV, but mm-hmm. I don't know. I wish they would stop doing that.
Yeah, like everybody's like wouldn't recognize John Cena running down the ramp. You gotta,
right.
You can only be recognized by his music. Those trumpets fucking kicking in. Like, oh my God, is it John Cena?
Especially when you've got like fucking 10 cameras in the arena, and as soon as there's anybody on stage, you've got a camera shot of him. So it's like, oh, is that John Cena? I'm not sure. Oh, wait, there's his music. Yeah, that's definitely him. I mean, makes no sense.
The people at home are taken care of because the commentators will bring your attention to, and the cameras will be filming him, so you'll see it. At home, it's just the hypothetical people that are sitting there.
Yeah, the people.
We're the hypothetical people. They're the real people. We're the hypothetical people. Yeah. I'm sorry, I got that backwards.
So I guess if you go to a Raw taping and you have cheap obstructed view seats, and you can't see the stage, and everybody starts cheering, and you don't know who's running in, I guess it's nice for you that they play the music. Mm-hmm. So you can okay, that's Cena.
But that's happened even on your TV because you'll be sitting there and you'll see something going on in the crowd. You'll see them moving around, and the first thing you'll be like, "What's going on?" And you're trying to look around the corner of the television, and go like, "What's going on over there?" You can't see. But exactly. Your interest is like, what the? You won't watch the match anymore because you want to know what the fuck is going on over that way.
Yeah, right. Well, who is that?
Is there a fight? Yeah. Did somebody just fight? Somebody just jumped the barricade and they're not showing me?
So yeah, that was pretty much until the main event. That was pretty much all I got because they cut out more stuff from Hulu. They cut out the Paige versus Alicia match, and they also cut out Swagger versus Santino. So I didn't get to see that either. Although I'm happy to see at least Swagger won that fucking match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice to see Swagger get thrown a bone this week.
Yeah.
So hopefully, maybe something will happen. Maybe can he make it 2?
Yeah. Can he break the losing streak? Because I guess that's like the fucking storyline that everybody gets now. Oh, sorry, Jack, we got nothing else for you. I know. Let's have you lose for 6 months and have the commentators make a big deal about how you haven't won a match in such a long fucking time, and then we'll start having you win again.
Yeah.
Oh, great idea.
Baby steps. And of course,
Oh,
Alicia Fox went on her normal tirade
yeah.
feeding the divas because they don't eat enough as it is. So she gave Oksana some popcorn and water. I mean, that's good enough for any prisoner.
Yeah, yeah.
Good enough for Oksana.
Really, it's kind of like a babyface turn for Alicia because she's like she's worried. She's like, "Oh, you're thin as a rail. Eat a sandwich. You know, have some popcorn."
I'm concerned.
I'm so worried about you. Come over here. You've got no meat on your bones. They should have Alicia Fox do like a Jewish mother gimmick. That would be the most. They would be on fucking CNN so fast for that.
That would be.
They're like, the African American female wrestler Alicia Fox has been talking like a stereotypical Jewish mother on WWE television for the last year. You look so pale. Have you gotten any sun?
Yeah, your nose is so moist. What's up with that?
What are you doing? Anyway, so let's get to the main event. This to me was the best part of the whole show. I thought this was a great match. I thought, speaking of Dean Ambrose being the star, I thought Dean Ambrose was the star of this match because his heat segment when he was selling his ass off for the Wyatts was fucking amazing. I thought he did a great job. Jim Ross on his podcast a lot of times will constantly talk about how younger wrestlers or indie wrestlers or even like wrestlers in Ring of Honor, how he wants them to sell more. They don't spend nearly enough time selling. They have really fast-paced matches where they just trade awesome, like, high-impact moves. And Jim Ross is always saying, every week, almost every week on the Jim Ross podcast, he's always saying, sell more, sell more, sell more. And Dean Ambrose sells his ass off in this match. And he has a few little hope spots where he kind of, he'll like there was one nice spot where Luke Harper was charging him in the corner, and he got both feet up to kick him away, and then kind of went all the way up and was laying across the top rope. So it looked like he was doing something. He was having some offense, but at the same time he was still selling the beating that he just got. He was still acting like he was tired and like he was beaten up. I just thought he did fucking amazing. And overall, I thought this was a really terrific match. The baby faces won. Reigns ended up getting the pin on Luke Harper after hitting him with a spear. But I really dug the match altogether. What did you think of it?
Well, I can honestly say that the only thing I got out of it was the reports because the storm that rolled through town knocked out my dish. So
you missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it knocked out the main event for me. I did not get to see this matchup. So I see like the little 3-minute highlights on the WWE website.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen. I haven't actually checked in like the Raw recap videos on the network yet. I don't know if they have one up, but yeah, I didn't really get to see this match. But I definitely want to get an opportunity if they have it up to see it again.
Yeah, it was a pretty sweet match. I mean, Cena got in there, and Cena sold for him for a while too. But the first really long sort of dominant heel segment where the Wyatts were beating up the babyfaces, that was all Dean. He was taking a beating like fucking Shawn Michaels back in the day, and I thought it was awesome.
Well, I guess they got to make Roman Reigns look strong. They don't want to like job him out and make him look like he can just sustain a beating at this point. There's no need to test his breaking point. Dean's a lot easier for that one.
Right. And Roman is the big guy. The way they booked the match. It was. I mean, I love old school tag team matches. I love when they stick to the formula and it works. And they did this like classic old school 6-man tag where they built it in stages. Where there was first, like Dean was in first, and he took a beating from the heels, and then he got the hot tag to Cena. Cena came in and turned it around for maybe like a minute, but then the Wyatts took back over on him, and they beat the shit out of Cena for another 5 minutes or so, and then he got the last big tag to Roman, and that ended up leading into the finish. So it was they built it so perfect, where first Dean gets the hot tag to Cena, and then Cena gets the ultimate, like the final big tag to Roman, so that Roman looks like the fucking Superman, because he's the last guy who comes in and kicks ass. And man, it was a really cool match. If this match had been on a pay-per-view, I would have been fine with it. Like, it was a really terrific match. So it was. I mean, really, the main event to me, the main event was good enough to redeem the rest of the show. But
Mm.
you know, man, that fucking Sandow stuff just pisses me off. Um, but yeah, that was.
Raw was like an Oreo. It had a nice little start with Sheamus and Barrett, so that's a nice little
Yeah,
bottom. A lot of creamy, puffy crap in the middle, and a nice little outer cookie layer to top it off.
there you go. Absolutely. I mean, and you know, like I say, the way Money in the Bank is shaping up, if you look at the way they're going on the show, and if you look at the advertised matches for house shows coming up later this month and next month, it doesn't look like, you know, it looks like it's going to be Orton in the Money in the Bank match, and then Ambrose and Reigns are going to be split up into singles matches against Triple H and uh, Seth
Yeah.
Rollins. So you know that. So at least you get a break from the 6-man stuff. Although I wouldn't. I mean, I like 6-man tag matches. Like I don't. I wasn't complaining when they were putting the Shield against a bunch of different guys in 6-man matches last year. I thought that was great because I like 6-man matches. But so Money in the Bank is shaping up to be an exciting show. And you know, it's always, even though it sucks what happened to Daniel Bryan, and I hope when he comes back he gets right back into the middle of it. You know, it's exciting that there's going to be a new champion. Hopefully it's not fucking. Hopefully they don't just put it on Orton. Hopefully they put it
Oh,
on
yeah.
somebody exciting. But you know, at least there's going to be a new champion.
We put the belt on Orton because it's our last resort.
I like that.
Yeah. Got a question here on Wrestling with Wrestling Facebook page
Let's do it.
by Bethel. I guess that's the way you pronounce his name. It looks like it's Bethel Tench Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
yeah, but he asked, do you think Daniel Bryan will get a decent push when he comes back?
I hope so. I mean, I think he will because, you know, the reason I say he will is because they're trying to keep the issue between him and Triple H going.
Mm-hmm.
Like Triple H has gone out of his way to talk shit about Daniel Bryan, and talk about how he's B+ and he's not championship material. And I mean, I know a lot of people on the internet really hate Triple H, and they might think, well, Triple H is just saying that because he's a dick and he doesn't like Daniel Bryan in real life, and you know he just wants to make himself look good. But Triple H is also a worker and a wrestler, and you know I think he's laying the foundation for a program with Bryan when he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So Bryan can come back in a month or two or whatever, and he'll have a ready-made opponent right there. There's Triple H right there. Oh, you've been talking shit about me the whole time I've been gone. You know, you took my title away from me. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hope that's what happens.
Well, I think he absolutely will get a huge push when he comes back because the fans do realize that this was all unforeseen circumstances. I'm like, they got to realize that the Authority are just doing something because Daniel Bryan did have neck surgery and he needs that rest. I mean, it's the smart thing to do. It actually is the right business choice to make, is to get that belt off Bryan, because there's been no champion ever that has sustained injuries like that, kept the belt, and came back and was able to fight up to caliber to defend that belt. So it was a smart move to make. So,
Yeah.
but when the fans also realize that his injury kind of sucks. So when he gets himself in a condition where he does come back, remember when Triple H came back? Daniel Bryan's going to be like tenfold that when he comes back from his injury. I mean, even if they didn't want to push him, they're going to have to push him, because if not, they're going to have another, what they like to call the Daniel Bryan movement on their hand, the yes movement. They'll have that back on their hands if they don't push him straight to the top again.
Oh, I agree. I know, like I say, I hope that's what happens. Yeah, you're right. When however long he's off, the first night he comes back to Raw after being laid off all this time with a bad neck is going to be fucking monster. I mean, he's going to blow the roof off the joint. And the other thing is, I mean, look, let's face it, they need him.
Yep.
They need him to be in that main event role, because other than Cena, I mean, I said a minute ago that it feels like Ambrose and Reigns are like the top baby faces, and I love those guys, but it feels like they're not quite ready for that yet. I mean, I would love to think of them that way because they're new and they're awesome. And I would think, man, isn't this awesome that Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are like the fucking top baby faces in the company? But it feels like they haven't quite been lifted all the way up to that level.
Yeah, I think if Dean Ambrose right now, with what he's capable, with what he's doing, if he was able to get, say, the U.S. Championship back or the Intercontinental belt back, that right there would be best suited for him. He's hot. You can give him that epic run, and again, and I'm always for trying to make the belts look a little bit more prestigious than they really do. I know they're only trinkets and everything, but there's a lot of history in those little trinkets, and I respect them, and I want to see the belts treated right. You know, they're like my ladies, my girls. I'm pimping out those belts, and I want to make sure my girls will be treated right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Don't be dropping them and scratching them and bumping them into shit.
You don't want to be holding them upside down.
No, God, no. Yeah, well, and you know the thing is, like, it would be great for Ambrose, like after, because the thing with Triple H and Orton can't last forever. Eventually, they're going to have to find other shit for them to do, and for Ambrose, because he is such a top level talent, and he is so good in the ring and so good on the mic and has such fucking sky high potential. I mean, they wouldn't even necessarily even have to put another title on him if they put whoever becomes the champion at the next pay-per-view, make that person be a fighting champion who defends the belt maybe every once in a while on Raw, and put Dean Ambrose in one of those matches, or maybe they're not even necessarily working together in a regular program. It's just Dean Ambrose gets a title shot, and have him, you know, make it a nice 15, 20-minute match, give it a nice, good chunk of time on TV, like they did with this main event from this week, and, you know, have Dean come this close but not quite make it, or have him, you know, lose like by count out or DQ, or have if it's a heel champ, have him have to cheat to win, something like that, so that, you know, you can tell that Dean is right there. He's right there. And if things had gone just a little bit different, he could have had that. He could have won the title and been the fucking world champion. Because, you know, they used to do shit like that a lot. Like, that's how they made Sting. Sting had a fucking time limit draw with Ric Flair in 1988. He didn't actually win the world title for the first time for another 2 years. But he was made by being able to hang with the champion. You know? And they don't really do... They're not as good at doing that as they used to be.
The wrestling fan has changed. You know, the fan, what they like has changed. Society has changed. You know, we talk about the whole what looks like a small little uprising, rebel uprising in the WWE between Lana and all of them. And WWE, they'll be the first ones to admit that that's what the whole Lana thing is. It's just an angle because they will kind of mock what's going on in society. And that's where these characters are coming from. So if you look at WWE and then kind of realize that they're making fun of what is going on in this world today, it kind of makes you sad, you know. Yeah. And we live in that area where, you know, just a little bit over the line, we got the don't tread on me people, and we got the gun toting people. I mean, we live around that area, so we have to see it all the time. So we are it's like we feel like we're the minority.
Yeah, absolutely. We're around here. I mean, we are, at least in terms of the way we think about certain things. Since we're talking questions, and we have a little bit of time here before we need to talk about the Legend of the Week, which is awesome this week, by the way. There's a question, or not really a question, but just an observation that I thought would be interesting to talk about here. I'm looking at the comments on our YouTube page, and it's a comment by Torvarin Zasserdy. Sorry for fucking up that pronunciation, but I'm an American and we don't know shit about how to speak other people's languages.
Right.
Torvarin Zasserdy, and Torvarin says about Money in the Bank, if they're going to have both belts above the ring in the match, what if they have two wrestlers grab each belt separately? In other words, you know, somebody grabs the world title and somebody grabs the WWE title. What do you think about that possibility?
That actually is a unique circumstance. I never really thought about it. They will have both those belts hanging up there. I mean, it would be something you haven't seen in a while. I mean, we've seen Chris Jericho and China holding the Intercontinental belt. We've seen the moments when when Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan came to the floor at the same time during a Saturday Night's Main Event match.
Yeah.
We saw where Bret Hart and Lex Luger went over the Royal Rumble at the same time and hit the floor. So there have been moments like that. It is definitely a unique way to look at it. It would make things a little bit more interesting, but yeah, it's hard to tell what they're going to do. I mean, the writers change their stories quicker than I change my underwear.
Yeah.
They rewrite everything about once a week, I think.
Yeah. So that would be quicker. Yeah.
Yes, much quicker.
Yeah. I will say this. I agree with you that it would be interesting. It would be like a twist, but it would also de-unify the world title again after just unifying it in December. And I think that's the stupidest idea ever. I think, why unify the title? And I know maybe you could say, well, they didn't plan that far ahead. Well, that's part of the problem. You've got one world title, and I think it's better that way, to have just one world title, and to break it up at the end of a ladder match, just, I don't know, to swerve the fans or something, to me makes no sense at all. And also because, to me, I mean, it's one title. So it's two belts, but it's one title.
Mm-hmm.
So if one guy grabs one belt and one guy grabs another belt, at most you could say that that's a draw. You wouldn't be able to say, well, okay, well, he's the WWE champion and he's the world champion. They're the same title.
It's like if you cut off me right arm,
right,
and he took it, and then you cut off me left arm, and he took it. I mean, they're two separate things, but they're still both my arms.
Right. You're still holding a part of me.
Yeah. I'm only going a little British there because I did pay respects to Rick Mayall from British, who passed away this week. He was definitely an inspiration to some of my comedy loves as a child, watching The Young Ones and Bottom, of course, him being Drop Dead Fred, playing Lord Flashheart in the Blackadder series. So he was a poet, a great comedian, and he will be missed.
Yeah, I agree. And our fellow wrestling fan and fellow British person to Rick Mayall, Dick Coughlin, also a big fan of him, and a big he's made note of his passing as well. So yeah, I thought your accent kind of sounded like Coughlin's accent there when you were.
Oh, did it?
I don't know. Those people all sound alike to me.
Oh no, it depends where you're coming from, because I like to say that if you want to do it like a Liverpool accent, all you have to do is make sure you sound like you're asking a question.
I don't know. Does that really work?
Yeah. See, you misgot it there. It's beautiful,
It's like people said the Beatles were the best band of all time, and I was like, is that really true?
Well, I always just listen to them, but I'm not sure if they're true. But they definitely got a lot of albums out there, so they might be, if you know.
I don't know how many people who watch this shit are British, but like they're all gone now. They're all like, fuck you guys, you fucking assholes.
No, really, we love you. We're trying to pay respects. We love you.
You fucking cocky American pricks. Go fuck yourselves.
I might move to England. I love this British shit.
Oh shit. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the legend of the week, because you came up with a doozy this week.
I did.
Go ahead. Let's talk about the legend. The legends, I should say.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our segment we like to call Wrestling with Wrestling's Legend of the Week. This week I picked out a unique set of legends. I picked out one of the greatest tag teams of all time, none other than Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson of the Rock and Roll Express. Now let me break down this team for you. The team actually began back in 1983 when they worked in the Memphis area. Jerry Lawler was the booker back in those days, and he actually had a team called the Fabulous Ones, who were Steve Keirn and Stan Lane, and they were the baby faces in that area. Well, they couldn't always travel with him all the time, so he needed an alternative babyface team. So he actually put these two, he put Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton together, and he created the Rock and Roll Express, and he gave them that whole glam rock gimmick, because at that point, back in '83, that kind of was the music genre that was going on at the time. So, and then they were down Memphis. So when you're doing Memphis, it's all about music. So at that point, they feuded back in the Memphis area. They They actually got to feud back in those days with the teams of like the Bruce Brothers, the Galaxians, and even Lanny Poffo and Randy Savage. They feuded with. Soon after that, they actually journeyed to Mid-South Wrestling, and they ran straight into Jim Cornette and his Midnight Express. This is a feud that probably would follow them throughout their whole career, and it still goes on today. Midnight Express, of course, being Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey at the time. The two of the teams actually feuded over the Mid-South Tag Team Championships and swapped them back and forth. The next stop for the Rock and Roll Express was actually Jim Crockett's Promotions, the NWA. This was all before the WCW bought it out. They debuted in Crockett Promotions on July 9th of 1985 against the team of Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev. And in that match, they actually won the NWA Tag Team Championships. They would continue to regain the belts 3 more times in the tenure. That would prove to be the power of like the Horsemen, who would be their undoing in the promotion. So the team actually left soon after that. In 1988, the duo found themselves in the AWA, where they feuded with the Midnight Rockers, and of course we all know who the Midnight Rockers are. That would have been Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, right? I believe so.
Yeah.
Midnight Rockers with Marty Jannetty. I was just making sure I fact checked that. For some reason, a little voice came in the back of my head and said, "Now you're wrong." 1989, they returned to the NWA, and they were regulated basically to the mid-card because at that point, the teams like the Road Warriors and the Steiners were already established. In 1991, Ricky Morton actually turned against Gibson, and he joined the York Foundation. The York Foundation had like Alexander York, Michael Wall Street, Terrence Taylor, Tommy Rich, Mr. Hughes. Then he feuded a little bit with Robert, but then eventually Robert was actually released. Soon both of them were going. In 1992, they actually teamed back up in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Now, this is where I kind of came into wrestling with knowing what they were doing. Smoky Mountain was something I was definitely familiar with. At that point, I was really deep into my backyard wrestling in 1992, so I was paying attention to all the wrestling magazines, so I had heard of them. This was basically Jim Cornette's little baby down there. In 1992, they teamed back up. They went down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and they started to do intense battles with the Heavenly Bodies. That would be Mr. Tom Pritchard, Dr. Tom Pritchard, and Stan Lane. They were managed by Jim Cornette. This actually was an exciting time for the Rock and Roll Express with their feud with the Heavenly Bodies, because they actually wrestled that match like in 3 different promotional venues. They wrestled each other in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They also that same year wrestled at the WCW Super Brawl. Wrestled the Heavenly Bodies. The Heavenly Bodies being being Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard, and then turned around and wrestled at the WWF Survivor Series against the Heavenly Bodies. Of course, then it would have been Jimmy Del Rio, Tom Richard and Jimmy Del Rio, and I did love Jimmy Del Rio. I loved how he got out there with his ginger red locks. He had the big mullet and the mustache, the handlebar mustache, and he's shaking. So I loved Jimmy Del Rio back in the day. So that actually was a unique year for the Rock and Roll Express. Soon they would actually return to Smoky Mountain, but their days were soon done. They feuded a little bit with Chris Candido and Brian Lee, but of course Tammy Fitchmer was managing them. Cornette actually managed them in a feud against the Gangsters, which was New Jack and Mustafa Saeed, and also D'Lo Brown. But he would soon betray them when they got into a fight with the Dynamic Duo, which of course was Al Snow and Unabomber.
Fucking Jim Cornette.
Yeah. Well, he's always gonna. You can't. Jim Cornette is like Paul Heyman. He's a liar.
You can't trust him.
Can't trust him. In 1996, they actually went back to WCW, but primarily really used on the Saturday Night Show and the WCW Pro shows. And they finally left that promotion in 1997. 1998, they saw a brief angle in the WWF over the NWA invasion that was led by Jim Cornette. They made their WrestleMania debut at WrestleMania 24 in a tag team battle royal, and they had feuds with Legion of Doom 2000 and the new Midnight Express at the time. They actually fought for the NWA tag team titles at a WWF Unforgiven show. Soon they would return to WCW, but they would find themselves even lower down the totem pole. In 2003, they appeared in TNA as members of Vince Russo's Sports Entertainment Extreme and got to fight with teams like America's Most Wanted during that feud before their exit. Altogether, the the Rock and Roll Express have won 34 tag team championships that are accounted for. 10 of them were in Smoky Mountain. 4 of them were in Jim Crockett Promotions, and 3 of them were in the Mid-South Wrestling. So they have a pretty good career for someone who's never really won that WWF championship. But I would consider the Rock and Roll Express one of the top teams of all time. So that's my report for the Legends of the Week for the Rock and Roll Express.
Great. I agree. They're really the only thing that they didn't do is have that big WWF run, because, I mean, everything else, you know, they moved through pretty much every other big territory back in the day. And I mean, I know it's a little early because we just got finished with WrestleMania this year, really, just a few months ago. But anybody who's making some kind of a list for who to induct in the Hall of Fame next year, and you want to have a little subheading on that list of, you know, why aren't these people in here already? And fucking obviously Macho Man is at the top of that list, but right below Macho Man would have to be the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, they're one of the greatest, if not the greatest, tag teams ever in terms of just how long they worked and how many different places they worked and how many fucking titles they won and how many awesome matches they had. And, you know, if they're not a Hall of Fame tag team, who the fuck ever was?
And they have fun to work with too, man. You get those guys in the locker room; they have just great stories, road stories. You can just sit. If those boys show up in your locker room wrestlers, sit down and talk with them. They are great, just friendly guys, just down home kind of guys that will open up to you. And as long as you're a friendly guy and cool, I mean, listen to them. They got great stories to tell.
Yeah, and I would imagine too they have. If you're an up and coming worker in the business, I mean, both those guys were fucking phenomenal in the ring, especially Morton. I mean, Morton was so good that, you know, a lot of times when people talk about the Formula Tag Team match, and you get that to the portion that's usually in the middle of a nice long tag team match where the baby faces, where one of the baby faces is isolated by the heels and they're just being beaten down, a lot of times that's referred to as the baby face is playing Ricky Morton, because he was so great at that role in the Rock and Roll Express matches. He was the guy that you would get in the ring, and the heels would fucking double team him and keep him from getting his tag to Robert, and would just beat the shit out of him. And he sold like a machine, one of the greatest sellers of all time. And you know, and like Ricky Morton would do shit where, like, back when the Rock and Roll Express were really big and they were like traveling all over the place and working territories and working live events everywhere back in the 80s. And they were heartthrobs too. Like, the girls loved them when they were younger and good looking. And Ricky Morton, when he was being beat down by the heels, would actually pick out like usually a girl, like one girl in the front row, and while he was being beaten down by the heel, he would reach out to her, and he would say, "Help me, help me." I mean, that's fucking classic shit. Like, that's why they were so popular. Because they made like that connection with the people, and he would literally find one person in that crowd and focus on them and look that person in the eye and reach out to them while he was taking a beating. It was amazing.
Truth be told, he was just eyeballing the person he was going to chat up at the bar that night.
Yeah, but they didn't, but the people, the other 10,000 people didn't know that.
Nah.
But, yeah,
I'm gonna fuck her.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, those guys must have gotten laid so much back in the day. I mean,
you want to know, back in the day.
I'm sure they get laid. Yeah, I'm sure they get laid now too. But I mean, when they were like, you know, NWA tag team champions, or when they were working with the Midnight Express, I mean, shit, man. When you had like an arena full of people to choose from.
I mean, I love both of you. Robert's really not really a spring chicken there. He's not really anything to look at because you don't know really which eye to look at, and that's not his fault. But
he's always had that wonky eye, yeah.
Ricky's smooth. He's got tons of charisma, man. The way he carries himself, he's just so smooth. He like fucking Jack Daniels, like
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's really good. Well, you know, let me add. Did you remember a couple years ago when they worked that program with Kevin Nash, and I forget what it was. I forget what promotion it was. I think it was AWE. It was.
They took some heat online with each other, I believe.
Yeah. It started like when Yeah, it started out as like a shoot thing between them, where Nash said something smart ass about Ricky Morton in like a shoot interview
Sounds
about
about
how
right.
yeah, yeah, right. Kevin Nash wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
He said something smart ass about Ricky Morton in a shoot interview, like Ricky Morton, is one of the guys who he still has to work when he's old because he never saved his money, and Ricky Morton came back and was like seriously pissed off about it. Was like, who the fuck is Kevin Nash, who made $1 million in the business, to talk shit about someone like me who had to work the territories, and I never got a fucking guaranteed contract. And he basically just read Kevin Nash the Riot Act and said, fuck you, you didn't work when I worked. I didn't have fucking a $5 million contract with Time Warner when I was working.
Yeah, I definitely would take someone like Ricky Morton over Kevin Nash, a guy who has busted his ass. Has had plenty of success in his career, but has never lost sight of where he come from. He has no bones about taking an independent card and working twice as hard. Kevin Nash, here's a lazy ass worker who just got lucky by who he knew. And now he's a big shot name in the business, and he'll charge you outrageous fucking prices, but he don't give two shits about the fan. I mean, so that's a huge difference. And yeah, when he shoots off in the mouth, he tends to be an asshole. I mean, he'll apologize. He'll try to twist it like he's become the bigger man. He'll never deny he never said it, but he'll try to act like he's moved on and he's letting it go, and calmer heads have prevailed.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a dick.
And I've said before, I mean, I like Nash, and a lot of those shoot interviews he does are really entertaining. But yeah, he does come off as like, especially if you're not one of his boys, if you're not one of his friends, he does come off like a huge fucking prick. Like, if you're one of his, I imagine he's one of those guys who, like, if you're friends with him, he's probably like the greatest guy in the world. But if you're not friends with him and you happen to say something that maybe he takes the wrong way or he doesn't like, he's like the biggest asshole you could ever fucking run up against. But I'll tell you what, you mentioned how Ricky Morton still takes indie bookings and still works harder than anybody else on the show. When I went to that indie show in West Virginia with you a year and a half ago or so, when Ricky Morton was on the card with Jimmy Valiant. And Ricky Morton, and this is like less than 2 years ago, Ricky Morton he's got to be pushing 60 now, if not over that. And he was in the main event in a tag team match with Jimmy Valiant, and Jimmy's too old to really do anything. He just kind of floats around and can't really take much of a shot or take a bump. But Ricky Morton was in there bumping hard enough for all four guys in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could tell, and there were some pretty good indie workers on that show. But Ricky Morton was taking bumps harder and faster and with more snap than anybody else on that show. I mean, you could just tell. You could tell the difference between a guy like Ricky Morton, who is a legendary class wrestler, one of the greatest ever, especially on the cell, and even other guys who are really good but are just not at that level. I mean, he was fucking, those back bumps he was taking were so fucking loud.
Mm-hmm.
It was astonishing. And I know you reffed that match. I mean,
yeah.
you were in the ring. I mean, it was a fucking sight to behold.
I gotta check, make sure that match is up on my YouTube channel. If not, I'll get it up there so people can know. That way you can see the match that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I do have that match on video.
That was with the Masked Assassins, right?
The Masked Assassins.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the only match Jimmy does these days is the hair versus the mask match.
The mask match, yeah. Yeah.
Masked Assassins are a lot like Doink the Clown. Like, who's gonna be that? Who's gonna beat Doink this week?
Exactly. Like, who even remembers who the original Masked Assassins were? It's just, but yeah. But it's a good indie gimmick,
It is. I love Jimmy.
It's fun.
Great guy. Very respectful guy. I mean, it's always great seeing Jimmy Valiant on the show, man. He is just a true gentleman.
I'm sure, and a legend as well that we've talked about before. I mean, just amazing.
I think he's going. I think he's going to go out like a sun and just explode. One of these days, it's gonna be just a cloud of dust in the ring.
Yeah,
you're gonna take a bump and disappear.
Just be gone. Like, I told you, Jimmy's not supposed to take any bumps. What did you do?
Who said no bumps for Jimmy?
I'm sorry. Well, I just punched him. He didn't have to sell the fucking thing. You knocked his ass down. He's 70 years old. So anyway, before we get out of here, we're just about out of time, but I've been trying to have us give like recommendations for the WWE Network the last couple weeks. So those of you who are sort of awash with all the possibilities of shit you can watch, old stuff to watch on the WWE Network, a few possible starting points. And for me, my recommendation this week for something you can watch on the network is an old, not I guess it's old now, I don't think of it as old, but it's a WWE pay-per-view from 2001. It's actually the 2001 Royal Rumble. You can watch this one if you're a WWE Network subscriber. This is definitely a show worth checking out, especially if you've never seen it or you haven't seen it for a while. And the reason why I'm picking this show is because I figure we're building up toward Money in the Bank, and we now know that the big ladder match will be for the WWE title. So I thought it would be fun to recommend some shows that from the past that have awesome ladder matches. And to me, the best match on Royal Rumble 2001 is the ladder match for the Intercontinental title between Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. And it was such an awesome match because it happened in that sort of modern ladder match era, like after the Dudleys and the Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys ladder matches where they were just like crazy fucking spot fests, which is mostly what a lot of the Money in the Bank matches have been too. But this Benoit versus Jericho match was not that kind of a ladder match. They didn't do like a lot of the crazy stunt kind of spots. There were some of that, but a lot of it was just a really hard wrestling match where they were using the ladder as a weapon and they were, really coming up with some creative kind of rough-looking spots. And it's one of my favorite ladder matches. And it's on this show. And there's other stuff on the show, too. There's a Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian tag title match, and those guys were always good together. Kurt Angle versus Triple H for the WWF title. And then, of course, this is one of the years that Steve Austin wins the Royal Rumble. This was Austin winning the Rumble on his way to his match with The Rock at WrestleMania 17 that year. So it's an awesome show all around, but recommended specifically for the ladder match. So, Doc, do you have a recommendation?
Well, I don't really think too much of these recommendations here because if you can watch a great wrestling show, you watch a great wrestling show. But if I had to recommend anyone, I'm going to have to give kudos to the team I mentioned, which is the Rock and Roll Express. So I would either recommend you check out WrestleMania 24 or you check out, was it WrestleMania 24 debut?
14.
Well, it's 14, WrestleMania 14, yeah. I'm sorry, you're right.
That's good.
Because it was a 24 Tag Team Battle Royal or something, 2014 Battle Royal.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Yeah. So either check out the WrestleMania with Rock and Roll Express or check out the 1998 Unforgiven where they actually wrestled for the NWA Tag Team Championships, because it is unique when other titles are fought on WWF ground, because it's just sacrilege for the WWF. They don't mention their enemy, they don't do anything. So if something like that, like when ECW invaded Raw, it was monumental because shit like that just doesn't happen. It was great. So it is unique. So check out Unforgiven, watch the NWA title be defended, Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express. So that was my recommendations this week.
And Jim Cornette was involved in that too, if I remember.
Oh, sure.
Fucking Jim Cornette, man. Can't trust him. He even has other companies defend their titles in the WWF. That's how much of a snake that guy is.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw that he has a new. Yeah, he's awesome. I saw he has a new shoot interview up with RF Video. I'm gonna have to try see if I can watch, because that looks like a lot of fun. His shoot. I'd
like to see that. Yeah, you got to tell me about it. I'd love to see that myself.
If I can find a copy of it online, I'll let you know where to find it. But yeah, it's I'm sure there's a trailer up for it on YouTube. It makes it look pretty good. Anyway, that's it for this week, everybody. We're out of time. We're all done. No more wrestling talk from us until next week. So we'll be back next week to talk more about the next episode of Raw, to talk about the continuing build-up to Money in the Bank. We'll see how that's shaping up. See how they continue to handle Seth Rollins and the other members of the Shield. Looks like it's going to be an interesting show. Really great main event for Raw this week, and that's really all I cared about. So, Doc, thank you as always for joining me.
Thank you for having me. As always, it probably is time for me to cut out, because as Janie Lane had once said, "I saw red."
Yeah, it's kind of like when your webcam goes red, it's like, okay, time to go. Doc's webcam is tapping out. It's time to end the show.
They're playing me out, people. They're playing me out.
Exactly. All right, guys, we're done here. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.